Alright, so in the last video we went ahead and created our database class, and we're using PDO to connect to our MySQL database. So now what we want to do is we want to create a couple more methods in here so that we can actually make some queries to our database. Alright, so what we're going to do is go under the constructor, which ends right here, and we're going to create our query function, which is just going to be one line. So let's say public function query. Okay, that's going to take in a query parameter. Alright, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take our statement, stmt, and we're going to set it to this dbh, which is our database handler, and then we're going to call prepare. Okay, because we're using prepared statements and we just want to pass in query. Okay, and that's it for the query function. Now we're going to have to create a bind function so that we can bind our data. Okay, so let's see. We'll say public function bind. Okay, and this is going to take in a couple different things. I'm going to have param, value, and type, which as a default is going to be null. Okay. Alright, and we're going to check to see if is null. So we'll say if. We want to check to see if the type is null. So is null, and pass in the type. Okay. Then we're going to create a switch statement. Alright. So we'll say switch true. Alright, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go through and check to see if our data is an integer, a boolean, or null. Okay, so let's say is int, okay, which is going to check to see if it's an integer, and we're going to pass in the value. Okay, and then we're going to set type is going to be equal to PDO double colon param underscore int, okay, integer, and then we need to break. Alright, and actually, you know what, we need to put a case keyword here. Okay, and then we're going to create another case that's going to be is bool. Okay, we're going to test to see if it's a boolean. Okay, so is bool, and then we're going to pass in value, and if it is, then we're going to say type equals PDO param bool. Okay, then we're going to break. And then we're going to check to see if it's null. So case is null. Pass in the value. And let's see, we're going to set the type to PDO param null. Alright, so you can see the pattern here. And then we're going to break. Alright, and then we're going to set our default. Okay, the default is going to be a string. Alright, so type is going to equal PDO param string. So we're just checking what type of data is being passed, and then we're just setting this property depending on what type of data it is. Because if, for instance, it's an integer, we want it to go in the database as an integer. If it's a string, we want it to go in as a string. Alright, so the last thing we need to do in the bind method is we're going to go right here and we're going to call bind value. Okay, so we want to say this statement, stmt, and then we want bind value. Okay, and then we're going to pass in a couple things. We're going to pass in param, the value, and the type. Okay, and that's it. That's our bind method. So there's two more methods that we need to create before we can actually do anything. Alright, so the next one is going to be execute, so that we can execute the prepared statement. So let's go right here and say public function execute. And this is just a one-liner. We're just going to say this statement execute. Alright, it's as easy as that. Actually, we need to return it. Alright, and then the next one is going to be the result set. Okay, so when we fetch, if we fetched a list of data, we want it to come back in a result set. Alright, so public function result set. Actually, I'm going to go like that. Result set. And then we're going to say this execute, which is the method we just created. Alright, and then we want to call our statement and then fetch all. Okay, so return statement, and we want to call fetch all. Alright, and then we want to specify what we want to fetch it as. And we want to fetch it as an associative array. Alright, so we have to specify that. Okay, just like that. And if you read the PDO manual, you'll see there's a few different things you can use here. You could have it be an object if you want, or an array, or a couple other options as well. Alright, so let's give this a shot. We're going to save it, and let's make sure we don't have any kind of errors or anything. Okay, so now we're going to go to our index file. And actually, you know what? Before we do that, let's add some data, because we're going to try to fetch some data, but we don't have any yet. Alright, so let's go to our post table. And we want to go to insert. Okay, we'll just put some dummy data in here. We'll just say my post 1. And then let's just grab some sample content. Alright, so I'm just going to generate a couple paragraphs of lorem ipsum. And we'll just copy the first paragraph here. Apologize for the slowness of this machine. Okay, so I'll copy that and just paste that right in here. Okay, current timestamp's good. Let's do another one. So we'll say, oops, my post 2, and we'll just paste that in there, and let's click go. Yeah, go. Alright, so now we have 2 rows in our post table. Alright, so let's go back to our index file, and we already instantiated the database object, so let's make a query. Okay, so we'll say database query, and let's pass something in here. We'll say select all from posts. Okay, so select all from posts. Now, if we wanted to add some conditions in here, like where an ID is a certain number or whatever, that's where we would call the bind method. But we're not going to be doing that yet, so we can just call our result set. Okay, so we'll create a variable called rows, and we're going to set that to database results set. Okay, and then let's just do a print R, which will just print out the array for us of rows. Okay, so hopefully this works. And there we go. You can see we're pulling out the data from the database. It's given to us in an associative array because we specified that right here. Okay, so what you would do with this is we could loop through it, and then we could just output the content that we want. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we'll get rid of that, and let's say for each. Okay, we'll say for each rows as row. Okay, and actually let's, what we'll do is let's end the PHP right here, and then we can continue and we can put some HTML in here. So we'll put an H1, we'll say posts. I'm not going to create a whole application here, just what would be part of one. Alright, so we'll say posts. Let's say UL, I guess we could do. Actually, no, we'll just do a div. And then this, what I'm going to do is use the shorthand syntax here. So we can use just blocks of PHP. So for each, and then we'll just use a colon here, and then we'll end the PHP. And then down here, we'll say end for each. Okay, and then in between here, we'll put another div, and we'll put an H3, and then we'll put the title in here. So we can say PHP echo row. Actually, we want to do it as an array, so row title. Okay, and then we'll do, let's say, a paragraph tag, and we'll echo out row body. Alright, so let's see how that works out. Okay, my post 1, 2, up. That's not right. It's not an object, it's an array. And there we go. So now we're pulling our posts out of the database. Now we could also add a where clause in here if we wanted to specify a certain post. We could say where, well, this is where we'd have to bind our data. So what we'll do is we'll say where ID equals :ID, and then right under here we're going to do our bind. Okay, so we'll say database bind, and then we want to pass in our placeholder, which is :ID, and then we want to specify whatever ID. We'll just say 1. Okay, then we'll save, and now we're getting the one that has the ID of 1. If I change it to 2, we're going to get post 2. Alright, so that's how we can fetch data using our database class. So in the next video, I'll show you how we can actually add data using a form and submit a post that way.